How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, and today we're going to be doing part 11 of my horror movies to either watch or avoid series. Got a pretty big stack here of stuff that we've got recently and checked out and watched, and some of it's good, some of it's kind of eh. The first one we got here is one of the latest Amityville horror films. I guess the Amityville Terror, based on the horrifying true events. I don't really remember too much of this movie, but from what I can remember, it was all right. A family moves in here. One of them has a bit of maybe an alcohol problem, I think. The family moves in. The mother, the wife, the daughter, maybe another kid. An aunt that moves in, she's got some issues going on, and she ends up getting possessed by whatever's going on in the house. And as business per usual, one of them ends up trying to kill the other, and the house tries to get them to be at each other's necks and stuff like that. So this one was all right. I'd say the Awakening was a lot better than this one. But definitely still check it out if you're into the Amityville horror kind of series that's been coming out for like the longest time. There's so many of these now. There's like a Paranormal Activities version of this, like the one before the Amityville. There is a Asylum one before it as well. But yeah, this kind of goes along with the typical theme of a family moving into the house, one of them getting possessed, and them kind of being at each other's throats, and slowly but surely tries to eventually kill one another and whatnot. It was alright. I'll probably give it about a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. Check it out if you want. This one's called the Amityville Terror. The next thing was really weird. The wife got this for the kids, but then realized after we checked it out, it's definitely not for your kids. We thought it'd be kind of like a neat, spooky little whatever, just because of the name of it. It says the Amazing Adventures of the Living Corpse, and you figure, you know, with the cheesy kind of graphics and animated style that this has, you can see here that it would just be kind of like a Scooby-Doo mystery with ghouls and goblins and a zombie or whatever. But then you kind of watch it and realize, no, it's rated R, and we're like, well, the kids are definitely not watching this. The graphics are kind of awful. Like, it has like these 3D graphic rendering of the characters and whatnot. But the story's really good. It's basically this zombie outbreak happens, and the dad gets bit. After he gets bit, he ends up killing the mother and chasing the boy while he's kind of in like a zombie-fueled rage. But then he ends up coming to his senses, and he tries to track his kid down and figure out where he went. And in the meantime, the kid goes to like an orphanage kind of thing and ends up slowly growing up, and the dad's looking for him, but ends up also stumbling into the underworld and has to go on a couple of missions and kill some other like ghouls and shit. Like, if the animation was better and the voice acting was a little better, this would actually be a pretty decent animated film. But yeah, the animation style and the voice acting, some of it just seems to kind of tank its potential good, like, greatness. But other than that, like, the story's really good. Some of the things that happen throughout it is pretty interesting and creepy. If you're into like animated horror type of stuff, check out the Amazing Adventures of the Living Corpse. If you don't mind cheesy 3D kind of animation, then it probably won't bother you so much. Nothing special with the DVD on the inside, but yeah, I don't know. For story, it's like an 8.5 out of 10, but for like the animation, I really don't like it, so I'm gonna have to give it like a 4 out of 10 for animation. Overall, I'm gonna give it, I guess, another 6.5 or 7 out of 10. But I don't know, man. Like, if you can find it for under $10, pick it up, check it out. Alright, the next one. This one, we kind of got, just because of the actors in it. Haley Duff and Tobin Bell. Tobin Bell being the guy that plays Jigsaw from the Saw films. But this is called The Sandman. Don't fall asleep. It's alright. It's another one of those movies where a kid has supernatural ties to the creature in the film, this being the Sandman, and I'm just going to read you the quick synopsis here. When his father is found dead, 8-year-old Madison goes to live with her aunt, Claire, which is Haley Duff. Soon, Claire realizes that Madison has the ability to conjure a frightening boogeyman called the Sandman, with a government agent on their trail, which is Tobin Bell. Claire and Madison will have to find a way to stop Sandman before they become his next victims. So yeah, basically, somehow the government finds out that this kid has control over the supernatural entity and are trying to claim it for themselves for obvious reasons, try to get a weapon. And there's some kills and some interesting stuff in here. The Sandman's kind of alright, just kind of looks like a guy that has a really expensive Halloween mask on and some, like, I don't know, motocross gear maybe, but it's alright. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's cool to have in the collection. I'll probably never watch again until I forget completely what the story's about, and then watch it again and be like, oh yeah. But yeah, so I'm going to give this a 5.5, maybe a 6 out of 10. The Sandman. Next one, really glad to get it. I love this series. Anything by James Wan or Blumhouse or Twisted Pictures is up my alley. This is the newest installment from Insidious, The Last Key. It's not as good as some, but better than others. I like this one better than the one before it. But the first two Insidious were definitely better. The old lady's back in this one again. It's kind of going back to her original house and kind of describe, or kind of shows you kind of how she grew up and what happened and why she has the powers she does and whatnot. And then there's kind of a few twists at the end. It's not scary. There's a couple of jump scares in it, but for any one who's into horror movies or like a fan of the horror genre or even the Insidious genre knows almost when they're gonna come and they kind of expect it. There's some interesting like special effects that happen. There's some interesting scenes that happen. Definitely builds up the mythos of this series. Definitely get it if you're into the Insidious. The anthology that's going on now. Looking forward to any further Insidiouses that come out. Insidii? What's plural for Insidious? Let me know in the comment section. The key's a cool idea. The whole like finger keys. It's creepy. It's kind of like long nails. Creepy. But yeah, I like what they did with this. I'll probably have to go back and watch it again because I've only really watched all of these once. But from what I remember, this is really enjoyable. But yeah, this is Insidious, The Last Key, 8.5 out of 10. This one, now, if you're a big fan of Nicolas Cage, this will be up your alley. If you're not into Nicolas Cage, this isn't going to change your mind about him. But this made me laugh, and there's quite some interesting stuff in it. This is called Mom and Dad, with Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair. It says from the director of Crank, so I guess you'll notice some humor like that in there. Maybe not. It's not really like Crank at all. It's just kind of a weird, I don't know. It's like a zombie movie without the people turning into zombies. They just become like very aggro, very angry, very set on killing their children. Something happens. There's some sort of chemical in the air or some sort of maybe radio frequency or something that just triggers the need to kill their children in this for whatever reason. There's some really shocking moments. There's some really hilarious moments. And once again, like I said, if you're a fan of Nicolas Cage, he goes full Ragin' Cajun in this. So he does some really crazy stuff. He makes me laugh. The wife and I have recently got a little more into Nicolas Cage just because he does some really crazy stuff, and his acting is, I can't tell if it's good or if it's just so bad that it's funny. But I really enjoyed this. Definitely go check it out. It's called Mom and Dad, once again with Nicolas Cage. 8.5 out of 10. This was really good and pretty funny. Next one. This is more of like a creature feature slash sci-fi kind of horror film. People do get fucked up in it. People do die. There's some blood and guts, and there's some like kind of shocking elements to it. But it's pretty much an invasion film, and it's centered around this, you know, couple that have to try and survive an invasion and figure out how to get away from the aliens and how to, you know, deal with the situation. It's all right. There's a little bit of a twist at the end that you don't quite see coming. And then there's another film, there's a sequel to this called Beyond Skyline that also is a thing that was made. It was all right, but honestly, I don't know. I'm not really big into alien stuff or like abduction films, so it didn't really interest me. The only kind of stuff like to do with aliens that interests me is more like Predator or the Alien series, and that's kind of really about it. Or maybe like the Prometheus movies that came out, like those were pretty good. I actually really enjoyed the Alien versus Predator movies, despite what bad reviews a lot of it got. But this was okay if you're really into sci-fi type of horror and aliens and stuff. This has an interesting take on it. The aliens kind of fuck with you in a really strange way. I kind of almost got a Cloverfield vibe from some of the huge ass aliens that's in this. So if you like that kind of stuff, go check it out. If I was more into that style, I'd probably give it a higher rating, but for now I'm just gonna have to give it like a 7 out of 10. It wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't super amazing. So the effects are good. Like, I think some of the effects were pretty good in it, so there's that. There's also a really annoying like Italian guy that's kind of being a dick in it, so I kind of wanted to punch him in the face too. But yeah. The next one here is kind of one that just kind of recently came out. Collider kind of shit on it a bit, I think, and I'm not sure who really supported it, but one of them from Collider really liked it and wanted to see it, and another one kind of really shit on it, like, this isn't so good, blah blah blah. My opinion on it is that it was okay. It was just another supernatural kind of ghost story. It's called The Winchester. It's about the Winchester Mansion. There was a film out a long time ago about this kind of setting and whatnot. It's okay. It was kind of really long and a little bit boring. This isn't boring, and it's not too terribly long. It's kind of a paint by numbers ghost horror film. The jump scares are fairly predictable. They didn't shock me or surprise me in any means. The ghosts are kind of average. There's nothing special about them. I don't really think there's too much of a twist in the story in this. It's a pretty much meat and potatoes ghost story horror film. I don't really have too much positive to say about it, but I don't have anything negative to say about it. It was just kind of come see, come saw for me. For any of those who don't speak French, it just means so-so. But yeah, it was all right. Definitely not really worth the $22 or $19.99 we spent on it. $22 after tax. But if you can find a copy of this for maybe under $15, pick it up for sure. Or if you're just a really huge fan of the Winchester house and the story behind that and the hauntings behind that, or if you're just a really big fan of like supernatural ghost type of horror movies, then yeah, if I was really into that kind of stuff, I'd give it probably about a 7.5 out of 10. But it was pretty much just paint by numbers, meat and potatoes kind of ghost story for me. I will probably have to watch it again and not have my nose down on my phone as much, but for the most part, it's just average. And the last one is kind of a really old one, kind of a B movie, but parts of it was really good, parts of it was really cheesy and lame. Some of it was boring. Some of it was actually pretty cool. I don't know. It was a really up and down movie. But this is called A Crack in the Floor, and that is blurry as shit. Wow. There we go. But yeah, it's A Crack in the Floor. It's got Gary Busey in it for like 3 minutes. I don't know why they had to focus so much on the fact that Gary Busey's in this. Gary Busey's very amusing to me. But he wasn't in this enough to really garner having his name plastered right on the front there to try and sell this thing. So I don't know why they did that. I guess they just banked on hoping there was a bunch of Gary Busey fans out there. But yeah, this one we just kind of got passed down to us from the wife's parents. They didn't want it. But it was alright. Like I said, there's some parts in it that was cheesy. There's some parts in it that was kind of cool. Like some of the kills are alright. Basically, this group of teenage friends come out into the woods to have a good time and you know, get laid and smoke pot, like your usual 80s bullshit kind of horror movie plot. It starts off kind of really weird though. It has nothing to do with the kids coming to it. It's just like this old woman, well, not old woman, but this woman and her kid kind of just hanging outside of a cabin in the woods, like hanging their laundry, and then these fucking two disgusting ass rednecks come by and just really fuck up their day, if you know what I mean. And the kid's kind of left to his own in the cabin and ends up living under the cabin and watches people through a crack in the floor, hence the title of this thing. But yeah, it's kind of like a Jason, like an early Friday the 13th Part 2 kind of feel to it. I don't know. I don't know how to rate this. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, but because I don't want to give it a 4 out of 10 and you guys be like, oh, I'm not going to watch that then. I think it's worth watching and checking out just to see if you do like it more than a 4 out of 10 rating. But because like I said, there's parts that are really boring and slow, but then there's parts that are kind of cool and kind of gruesome, and the character building they do with the teenagers in this is actually fairly like decent, not like amazing, but like I still didn't care if they lived or died, but they still tried their best to make you sort of care about these characters and about their lives. And then there's this really, really boring sheriff and deputy thing going on. Those scenes could have definitely been cut out. But either way, maybe just check around for it. Maybe you can find like a shitty version of this for $5 at your local used DVD shop or something like that. Or maybe you can find it on Netflix or something. But check it out. At least say you've tried it. Let me know if you've seen this and what you think of it. Maybe you can tell me if 4 out of 10 is too harsh. Maybe you can let me know if 6 out of 10 is too generous. Because, yeah, it could be either one depending on what your view on this movie is. But check it out. A Crack in the Floor. But, so that's it. That's my stack of horror movies to either watch or avoid. I hope I steered you towards some good golden nuggets there. And I hope I steered you maybe away from stuff that isn't that great. That was my opinion on those. Hope you enjoyed it. For Glory, for the Rebellion, Slimerella out.